Every year, on March 17th, cities dye their rivers green. Millions flood the streets in emerald outfits. Over 31 million Americans proudly claim Irish ancestry. That's more than 6 times the entire population of Ireland itself. But here's the question nobody really asks. Why does St. Patrick's Day hit so differently in America? Why do people who have never even been to Ireland go absolutely all out for this holiday every year? So let's dig out the real story behind it. And trust me, the real story is way more fascinating than the green beer. Let's start at the very beginning, because St. Patrick was not Irish. That's right. The man behind this massive Irish holiday wasn't even from Ireland. St. Patrick was born in Roman Britain in the late 4th century. His real name? Maewyn Succat. At just 16 years old, he was kidnapped and taken to Ireland as a slave, spending 6 brutal years in captivity. He eventually escaped, but here's where it gets remarkable. Instead of staying far away from the place that enslaved him, he went back, by choice. As a Christian missionary, Patrick returned to Ireland to spread Christianity, and he did it so effectively that he became Ireland's patron saint. He died on March 17th, around the year 460 AD, and that's exactly why we celebrate on March 17th every year. By the time of his death, he had established monasteries, churches, and schools across Ireland. And those famous legends, like driving the snakes out of Ireland. There were never any snakes in Ireland to begin with, but the legends stuck. Now here's the part of the story that most people don't know. The St. Patrick's Day Parade, one of America's most iconic traditions, actually started in America, before the United States even existed. Records showed that the very first St. Patrick's Day Parade was held on March 17, 1601, in a Spanish colony in what is now St. Augustine, Florida. More than 170 years before America was founded. Then in 1737, homesick Irish soldiers marched in Boston. In 1762, Irish soldiers in the British Army marched through New York City. And from there, the tradition exploded. But the real turning point came in 1845. A devastating potato blight struck Ireland, causing a famine so catastrophic that approximately 1 million people died and another 2 million were forced to abandon everything and flee to America. It was the largest single population movement of the entire 19th century. When these Irish refugees arrived in America, they were not welcomed. They were looked down upon, seen as a drain on society. So what did they do? They held on to their identity with everything they had. St. Patrick's Day became their symbol of pride, resilience, and survival. Eventually, America embraced them back. Okay, so now let's talk about the fun stuff. The traditions. Because everything about St. Patrick's Day has a story behind it. Why does everyone wear green? Interestingly, green wasn't the original color associated with St. Patrick. Blue was. But over centuries, green became linked to Irish identity through the Shamrock, the Irish landscape, and the independence movement. Today, if you don't wear green on March 17th, expect a pinch. Speaking of which, the Shamrock. St. Patrick famously used the 3-leaf clover to explain the concept of the Holy Trinity to the Irish people. 1 plant, 3 leaves, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. It's been a symbol of Ireland ever since. And then there's Chicago, which has been dyeing its river bright green every single year since 1962. It takes about 40 pounds of an environmentally safe dye to turn the Chicago River green, and the color lasts for several hours. It's one of the most iconic visual spectacles in America. And now, corned beef and cabbage. You might think this is a traditional Irish dish, but surprise, it was actually invented in America. Back in Ireland, pork was the traditional meat. But Irish immigrants in America, living near Jewish neighborhoods, discovered corned beef as a cheap alternative. The dish caught on and became the St. Patrick's Day staple we know today. And yes, green beer. This is uniquely American. The tradition of dyeing beer green dates back to 1914 in New York City. Today it's served in bars across the country every March 17th. Historically, the Catholic Church even allowed people to break their Lenten fasting restrictions on this day to celebrate, which helped make the holiday famous for its festive spirit. So here's the big question. Why does St. Patrick's Day hit so much bigger in America than almost anywhere else in the world? The answer is identity, community, and pride. Think about it, 231.2 million Americans claim Irish ancestry. That's nearly 10% of the entire U.S. population. Cities like Boston, New York, Chicago, and Philadelphia have deep Irish roots going back centuries. In New Hampshire alone, over 20% of residents claim Irish heritage, the highest rate of any state in the country. And here's something that really puts it in perspective. Americans spent an estimated $4.4 billion on St. Patrick's Day celebrations. Billion with a B. That's how big this holiday is in the United States. But beyond the money, St. Patrick's Day in America represents something deeper. It's a reminder that immigrant communities shaped this country. The people who were once rejected and marginalized built something extraordinary. The Irish didn't just survive in America, they thrived. And St. Patrick's Day is their annual celebration of that journey. And in 1991, the U.S. Congress officially designated March as Irish American Heritage Month, recognizing the enormous contribution of Irish Americans to the fabric of this nation. So St. Patrick's Day 2026 falls on Tuesday, March 17th. And if you want to experience it at its absolute best, here are the cities you need to know about. Number 1, New York City. The New York St. Patrick's Day Parade on Fifth Avenue is one of the oldest and largest in the world. Millions of spectators line the streets every year. This parade has been running since 1762. That's over 260 years of tradition. Number 2, Chicago. Home to the famous Green River in one of the country's most vibrant Irish-American communities. Cook County alone has 435,000 residents claiming Irish ancestry, the most of any county in the nation. Number 3, Boston. Boston's celebration is legendary, in fact. St. Patrick's Day coincides with Evacuation Day, an official public holiday in Massachusetts. Schools and businesses may actually close. Number 4, Savannah, Georgia. Surprisingly, Savannah hosts one of the largest St. Patrick's Day parades in the entire country, a beloved Southern tradition that draws enormous crowds every year. And 5, Philadelphia, where St. Patrick's Day celebrations date all the way back to 1771. Even General George Washington himself celebrated the holiday here. He declared a holiday for his troops on March 17, 1780, as an act of solidarity with the Irish. Before we wrap up, here are 5 surprising facts about St. Patrick's Day that will blow your mind. Fact number 1, St. Patrick was not Irish. He was born in Roman Britain, kidnapped as a teenager, and only went to Ireland as a missionary. The patron saint of Ireland was British. Fact number 2, the first St. Patrick's Day parade happened in America, not Ireland. It was held in Florida in 1601 to 174 years before the United States existed. Fact number 3, in Ireland, St. Patrick's Day was a quiet religious holiday until the 1960s. It was actually Americans who turned it into the massive celebration it is today, and Ireland eventually adopted the American version for its own tourism. Fact number 4, corned beef and cabbage. Totally American. Traditional Irish St. Patrick's Day food is actually lamb or bacon, not beef. Fact number 5, St. Patrick's Day is celebrated in more countries than any other national festival in the world. From Australia to Japan to South Africa, the whole planet goes green on March 17th. So now you know the full story. St. Patrick's Day isn't just about green beer and shamrocks. It's about identity, resilience, and the incredible journey of millions of Irish immigrants who helped build America into what it is today. From a 5th century missionary in Ireland, 31 million Americans celebrating in the streets every March 17th, that is one extraordinary story. This year, whether you're Irish at heart, or just here for the parade, happy St. Patrick's Day 2026. Drop a comment below. Tell me, are you celebrating St. Patrick's Day this year, and where? I'd love to know. I'll see you in the next one.